So welcome back to the YouTube channel. So if you're thinking of selling your property in the Costa del Sol, you'll probably have some questions. That's understandable. I have sold properties all along the Costa del Sol, and through 20 years, I think I've heard all the questions that you could ever ask. So today I'm going to go through the 10 most important questions that sellers ask me to sell your property in the Costa del Sol.
Well, you're in the hot seat because I'm asking questions. Are you ready?
Okay. I'm ready.
Okay, amazing. So fair is fair. It's true what you said. You have built up quite a reputation for getting fast sales and happy clients over the years. And I know recently you've had some really amazing reviews, which I think just add value to the service that you're providing to your clients. But, you know, a big question, a frequently asked question, and I think we have to ask this question as I chat to you today to really take the elephant out of the room. How long does it really take to sell a property?
That's a good question, because this is one of the questions that I always get asked. How long is it going to take? Depending on the market. Okay, so the Costa del Sol is booming at the moment. Okay, so basically anybody could list the property and you'll get buyers coming through the door. That's one side of it. But the other side of it is how you market the property. What exposure are you giving? What property portals? What networks do you have to get the client the best price? And also the presentation is really important. If you get the three of them right, and as well, don't forget the price.
Yeah.
The first 2 weeks, when I list the property, the first 2 weeks are crucial. So if I don't get the price, if I price it high, I lose the first 2 weeks. So it's really important for me, especially in this with the Costa del Sol booming. Everybody has an idea of what the property's worth. I like to go there, as I say, like a cowboy with my guns and my armor, and basically tell them, this is what property sold the last time, this is what the valuation calculator is given, and this is my independent professional valuation of how I can sell your property.
Okay, pause there for a second because I think there's a few things in there that we need to really go into more detail on for anyone that's listening. So, you know, we always get asked this question, how long is it going to take to sell my property? You're absolutely right. It depends on a few factors. It depends on pricing the property correctly. It depends on marketing the property correctly. And it depends on positioning the property correctly. So what do I mean by that? By ensuring that we market it in a way that highlights what's great and maybe what's not so great about the property, so that we're bringing the right buyers through the door. When all of these things are done correctly and, I guess, produced in a way that they're sent over to the seller as part of their valuation report, then I feel like everybody's on the same page. Last week alone, you brought 3 new exclusive properties to the market. You deployed that strategy, your framework, and those 3 properties now have offers on the table. So the sweet spot here is it's really about listening to your agent, pricing the property correctly, not necessarily pricing it how you think the property should be priced, listening to people who are not the experts or doing your own research online. You have to be open-minded to listen to expert opinion and go into this with an open mind to make sure that your property is priced right.
Yeah, and absolutely. And look, we've learned from the past and we've been burnt in the past from not following that framework.
Yeah.
And if we don't follow that framework, we go down the same route. The property doesn't sell, the owner's asking where the viewings are, and then we actually need to go back with the conversation to say, the reason the property's not sold, as we told you at the first stage, it's too high, and buyers are not stupid. They know the price. They're happy to pay a premium, but they're not going to pay over that premium.
100% correct. And we've obviously fell into the trap before where we've taken on listings and it hasn't always aligned with our framework and how we work. The properties were overpriced because we, I suppose, felt maybe peer pressured to take on the listing and go out to the market with a property that we knew and our instinct was too expensive. What happens? You don't get buyers through the door. You don't have a good experience. You don't sell the property quickly. And it ends up costing us money because it costs us money to have a listing sitting there. So what we've learned now is that when we follow our framework, when we submit our valuation report, if we're not on the same page as a seller, sometimes it's okay to walk away because it just ends up in a poor experience all around. And if that means that we walk away and that property is listed with another company, that's fine, because I think we have to follow our values as a business and do what we know is right for the seller and buyers coming through the door long term.
Yeah, I think so. Like, listing the property is a partnership. It's a partnership with the seller and it's a partnership with the agent.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, for my business, I am putting my money where my mouth is. I'm saying I will bring a professional photographer. I will do everything in my power. I will spend money on marketing. You just have to listen to me and my professional opinion of what the property is worth. If we agree on that, we have a sale. Yep. Everybody's happy. The seller's happy. We're happy because we've stuck to our values. We've listed the property, we've sold the property, and it's went seamless, as we said.
Yeah.
And everybody's happy, seller's happy, gives you a brilliant valuation, and our credibility goes up.
Back to the question, how long does it take? Well, if the correct framework is followed, if the property is marketed at the correct price and marketed in the correct way and positioned in the correct way, you could be like our clients that listed with us last week. The properties were brought to the market on Friday of last week, and by Monday and Tuesday of this week, we had offers on the table. So it can be as quick and as easy as you want it. But my advice back is it's about listening to the experts and being open-minded to go on this journey. And I loved that word that you said, as a partnership, because that's exactly what this is.
Yeah, and like sellers have a choice, and especially in the Costa del Sol. You can list with one agent, you can list with 3 agents, you can list with 10 agents. I don't get involved in that. If I'm not the exclusive agent, then I'm not the agent for you, because I can't put my money where my mouth is, do everything I'm going to say, and then somebody else sells it. So it's not worth me. And I just wish the seller well, and we move on.
And that's okay, because it has to feel right in all relationships in life. Okay, frequently asked question number 2: how should I set the right asking price? Okay, we've kind of talked about that, but let's give this some more time and space because it deserves it.
Okay, so a client calls me and says, "I want to sell my property." So first of all, I say, "Fantastic, that is great. How did you hear about us?" So that I know where the referral came from. The next stage then is I get the address, I look up the Castral reference number, I go into 2 or 3 valuation calculators. If I know the area, then I'd probably sold properties there before. So I have a really good idea of where I'm coming from when I go to the property. Even to the point where I can predict what kind of buyer that property is going to do. So, for example, if you're in a residential complex that doesn't allow tourist rentals, and it's got 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms and parking, you're predominantly going to get a Spanish buyer that's looking in the market. 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a Spanish buyer. So what does that mean? That Spanish buyer is going to have to buy with a mortgage. Yeah. So then we have to look at what's in the area and what the prices are in the area, so that we're not pricing that property higher than it is. Because what's going to happen is you're going to get a lot of viewings, and then they're going to say, okay, I'm going to buy that, and then the bank's going to either look at that and say, no, it's too expensive because this is the platform for this area and this is the budget that you had. So you're wasting time on viewings, wasting time, on the sellers. So it's most important that we are competitive in the market. Yeah,
I totally agree with you on that. So back to the question, so that's your approach to avoid overpricing. And then once you've done all that analysis, you, as we mentioned earlier, you're going back to the client with your valuation framework, with your valuation report, which is realistically setting what you believe, in your professional opinion, what the price for that property should be.
Exactly.
Okay. So frequently asked question number 3. What documents do I need to sell my property in Spain? Okay, this is a good one, because actually a lot of our clients that are coming to us, they're often not living here. It's been a second residence for many years. It's been a family holiday home, so they're not getting the use out of it anymore. They decide it's time to sell. So how can they start to get prepared even if they're not living in the country? What documentation is necessary?
Okay, so the most important one is they have the escritura, which is a title deed of when they bought the property. So when you go to the notary and you buy the property, maybe a couple of months' time, you get the title deed. That's most important, because that tells you all the information about the property. The next thing, if you have that or you don't have that, then it's not a problem. We can order the nota simply.
Okay.
So the nota simply is a short version of the title deed, but we can get that up to date.
Okay. Okay. So title deed, nota simply, what else?
If you're listing the property now, you have to have an energy certificate, which I'm noticing in the last year or so, a lot of people are asking, what's the energy rating of the property?
Yeah. It's worth to mention on this as well, though, when you do list with you exclusively, we do pay for the energy certificate as part of the service. So we don't expect somebody that's maybe not in the country here to navigate obtaining that process if they're not familiar with it. Yeah. But in terms then of, EB receipts, Basura receipts to show that you're up to date with these, are they necessary as well?
Yeah, it's really important. So a lot of people then would have it on direct debit. So if they have it on direct debit, then it's paid.
Yeah.
But if you haven't had it on, and we've had this before, that people will say they want to sell my property, then, it's been 15 years. And then when you actually go there, they didn't know that they had to pay this EB tax, which is like in the UK, council tax that you pay to, and then Basura, which is rubbish tax. They didn't know, or they didn't want to know. So the problem there then is we have to, whatever lawyer that they choose, they have to go and find out how much is owed.
So it's worth, if you are thinking about selling your property because you want to take advantage of a good market right now, make sure that, if you haven't heard the phrase EB or Basura before, start to investigate. Have you been paying these charges so that you know that you're up to date? And when it comes to the sale process, you can prove you're up to date, because it's one less headache for you a little bit further down the line. Just something that comes to my mind there, actually, while I'm saying that, I think as well, and this is just my personal opinion, that people should ask for the latest minutes from the community of owners. I know that there has been a lot of conversations recently around tourist licenses. There's been some updates even as recently as this month, but you will want to maybe understand, if you don't have a tourist license already, potentially how your communities of owners is feeling in relation to that topic and what is the sentiment in your local community.
Yeah, no, in the last year, not just for the tourist license, a lot of people are actually looking at the minutes to see what's the future.
Yes.
What's the cost? Is there going to be a painting next year? What's that mean to my community and everything else? So they want to kind of go, okay, that's great. Look at the last year's community. If there's anything in the pipeline that they know, they need to have to budget for that.
Yeah. So why is that important? If I'm sitting at home now and I'm watching this, please educate me on why would that be important? Like if I see in the community minutes, for example, they're going to paint all the building next year and replace the elevator system, what should I be thinking at that point?
Well, it's important for the person that's buying it that you know what's going to be happening in the future. So the questions are, if I'm doing a sale, when was the last time, if I go to a complex or something and the paint's falling off, when was the last time it get painted? Is there anything in the future? Because it's handy to know about what's going to be happening.
But is it not that as well important that, you pay your community fee every month, but if the plans that the community has are more than the community fee, does that have a financial impact on you?
Absolutely, because the community of the many apartments or the many owners are there have to split the cost of the maintenance of the buildings.
So it might have a financial impact on you, and that's important to know up front before you buy a property, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This is interesting. So I mentioned at the start of this episode, we've started to see some lovely reviews and testimonials come in recently. And one that I noticed that came in for you recently is, it said, Being in the UK, I felt very confident with Warner. He even went to the town hall on my behalf and got documents when solicitors needed them. That's the level of support that we believe in, and it really helped us with our sale. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this is the one that we were speaking about. The owner didn't know about EB or Basura or everything else, so I had to get an authorization letter and go to the office there and basically get the receipts so that we knew how much the EB and Basura was in the property. Was going through in a couple of weeks, so we had to get that figure so that they could put it into the calculations
and act quickly. So, that level of support when somebody's not on the ground here, I would imagine it is massively appreciated. We see it coming through in your reviews and testimonials, but it's thinking outside the box, it's being agile, it's being prepared to work hard for your client, right?
Yeah, exactly. As I said, it's a relationship, and it's a partnership, and the end goal for both of us is to get the sale.
Perfect. Frequently asked question number 4. How do you market a property for sale?
Okay, so when I go to the property and say the owners are outside of the UK and I go to the property and the property is, it's being rented out and, there's things lying there or there's things that needs to get tidied up, I need to really go in and get the presentation of the property perfect. So I would go and see the property and then I would give my recommendations of the owner, what needs to be done. It needs to be painted again. There's cables there that we need to get cut. We need to present this so that when the buyers go in, you get the wow factor.
Yeah.
And you get,
of course. So like presentation is everything. You buy with your eyes.
You buy with your eyes.
I would imagine as well, like, if there's musty smells and things like that. You remember when we were actually shopping for, it's not in his head.
Oh my God.
Because when we were,
my reputation went down the pan.
Not the current house that we live in, but the house that we bought before that. Like, I would know when I would get to the door of the house if the door opened, and if the smell wasn't something that I like, I wouldn't even pass the threshold. So it got to the point where I said to Warner, you're better just to go without me, and if it passes the Sandra test, then phone me, because it got to the point where other agents would see you coming with me and they're like, he's all right, but the wife. But it is back to that point of presentation, but not just visual presentation. I think you have to appeal to the senses.
Yeah.
So I like what you do in the fact that once the valuation is done, then there's a follow-up visit going out to talk to the owner and have an honest conversation about, there's nothing wrong with your home, there's nothing wrong with how you live, but for a buyer, we might need to remove this, or we might need to be aware there's a piece of mold there that's causing a musty smell that we need to paint. We've got a bit of a cockroach problem, some things like that. And often owners, particularly ones that we work with, it's been a holiday home, it's been an investment property, so they mightn't have actually seen the property in a while.
Yeah, no, and exactly. And, as I said, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. So I don't want to bring a professional photographer, videographer and do my part.
Yes.
When the property's not fit for it.
Yeah. So there is a piece of work around that, around getting the property, ready. Like one of the properties that we listed last week, the owner's in Australia. He's not seen the property in a long time. He has a key holder managing it for him. So once we submitted the valuation and, it was coming to taking the photos and getting the video ready for the property, it does need to have that discussion that, look, I know you haven't seen the property in a while, but there's a few things that we need to address to make sure that we get you a good quality buyer and a fast sale, because that's what that client needed. So communication is everything in that situation, but presentation is everything. So, marketing the property for sale requires presenting the property in a great way, getting the professional photography done so that it's appealing enough when people are browsing the property online that they want to come through the door and make an inquiry, videos so that they can see themselves living in it. What else?
Well, now that we're in the social media, YouTube trend and everything else now, I've had to adapt from salesman to present to social media person, and this is the way the clients are not just years and years ago, they would look at the window and they would come in and buy. The clients are online, they're on YouTube, they're on different avenues. So not only do we have to present myself and present the property, but we have to bring it out to the world with the reach in regards to YouTube, social media. So, yeah.
Yeah. And also as well for us, we talk a lot about our email list and our database of clients. So it's also about treating those clients in a good way, providing them support and value while they're waiting for maybe their perfect property to come along or for their requirements to be ready. It's about ensuring that they know when we have something come up that suits their needs, that we communicate with them first and give them that VIP experience. So I think that was also part of why we had such a quick turnaround this week with those properties, because in 2 of those 3 cases, we had buyers waiting in the wings.
Yeah, and I think that's the way it's going with the lack of product in the Costa del Sol, with the more demand and supply. You know, it gives us a chance to build a relationship with our clients, find out what they're looking for. They'll download all our resources, checklists, buyer's guides, so they're well up to date in what needs to be done. And then when we have the property, we send them it, and they're so happy, because the other way that they've been doing, looking at all the property portals, making inquiries before they were introduced to us, it's
Tedious.
Tedious.
Yeah,
exactly.
Tedious. And often they come to us at the point where they've lost hope.
Yes.
Because they feel like this dream is just never going to arise. So it's a bit of a repairing that confidence and repairing that trust is important in that exercise. Frequently asked question number 5, do I need to be in Spain to sell my property?
No, because we answered the question. The owner was in Australia. He contacted us 6 weeks ago. We've been contacting him by email and everything else. And then, you know, we put the property on the market. We signed the reservation. But we signed the listing agreement by DocuSign. He has the lawyer here. So, no.
So just if somebody's watching and they are in another part of the world and they own a property here on the Costa del Sol and they want to sell it, what you could expect is correspondence with us by phone, followed up with us being able to go and have a physical valuation appointment, a valuation report submitted from us with a recommendation of how we would price the property, some comparables so that you can see that we're not just plugging that figure out of the sky. If you're happy with the valuation report, we might have a follow-up call. Then we will submit a marketing report and proposal to you. Then you get a listing agreement with us, which is basically acknowledging that we have your permission to market your property. And in that document, it would also outline all of the finer details around, you know, commissions and costs, so that you're fully clear on everything. That's all done electronically because we have moved forward with the world. We've automated a lot of our business. So all of this is done electronically, signed electronically, with agreements and documents sent to your inbox once everybody has signed. So it's really painless.
Yeah.
And then once we have access to the property and the property is listed, we start to do viewings. An offer is then presented to you when it's received. And again, that's all happening remotely. You don't need to be in Spain for that process to take part. So not only do you not even need to be in Spain to list your property with us, you don't need to be here while the sales process is ongoing. We really try to take the stress out of that for you.
Yeah, and it's a point to know, obviously, our area is Benalmadena. This person, normally a lot of referrals come our way, but this person didn't know us from Adam. So he looked up the chat GBT. He found 3 agencies and contacted 3 agencies. And he said that one agent never got back to him. The other agent sent him an email but never followed that up. He says, but our service was absolutely 100%, and that's why he chose us. And he asked us, I've got a property in London, can you sell that as well? So,
unfortunately not. But the point here in all this, and it's not bragging because that's not what we do, it's about, you know, we want to take care of our clients and offer service that aligns with our values. So it will be good quality, it will be fast and efficient. And for you, you can sell your property with us without even stepping on a plane. So we take the headache away for you. Okay, frequently asked question number 6. How do you find me the right buyer? Because it isn't like, how do you do that?
Yeah, like we have a database of about 4,000 clients now, and they're very active looking at our emails, the newsletter that we send to them, downloading the resources. They come to us
When they're ready.
And they tell us, I'm looking for X, Y, and Z, and this is where I want the property.
But it's twofold. It's protecting our buyers and nurturing them and supporting them so they have everything that they need, so they don't need to work with anyone else because they trust us completely. But it's also when we list a property on property portals or on our website and we get inquiries through the door, it's very much about us screening that inquiry to make sure that we're vetting buyers correctly, because it's a waste of everybody's time and energy, and time is not an endless resource. So we have to vet inquiries correctly to make sure that they're the right fit for the property. Do they have the funds and resources ready? Are they looking for modern and the apartment that they've inquired about needs some renovation? Do they have a small family and there's lots of stairs in the house? So it's about taking a step back, having an honest conversation about what the buyer needs, and sometimes saying to them, thank you for your inquiry, but in this case, this property isn't actually for you. We might have something else for you, or at this moment, we may not. But there's a bit of work that is involved in that as well to ensure that we get that piece of the puzzle right too.
Yeah, like time is money. So if I'm running around doing viewings for people that don't fit the property, then I'm the fool, so we really have to vet them to make sure, that they've seen the property, they know the location, they've watched the video, we've done the video call. All they need to do now is just go to the property and say, yes, that's the one,
Okay. So frequently asked question number 7, what fees and taxes should I expect?
The fees and taxes that you should be expecting selling your property is, if you're a non-resident, then automatically there's a 3% surcharge there. There's a tax called plusvalía. Before it was like a land tax, now they're making it kind of like an environmental tax, but it's a tax from when you bought it to when you sold it. So that has to be calculated. Agency fees, because I don't work for nothing. I don't give you the service of work for nothing. And then obviously, if you bought the property and you made a profit, then you have capital gains, which you need to consult your lawyers, or the lawyer will put you in touch with an accountant so that you have an idea.
Yeah. And in full transparency, people always ask us about their tax questions at the point of our sale and transaction with them, which we are not tax lawyers, and tax situations are very personal, and tax situations differ from circumstance to situation. So when they are more complex, away from the standard tax, we will refer them to an expert in that field. And I think it's fair to call that out, because everyone has their zone of genius.
Yeah.
Tax issues are not mine.
Yeah, exactly. So my job is to market the property and sell the property. The next step, it goes to the lawyer, and then the lawyer has to deal in behalf of the seller.
Amazing. Okay. Frequently asked question number 8. What makes selling in Spain different to other markets?
Okay, so obviously I'm from the UK, and I've seen the UK system where the real estate goes out and they list the property, and then they marketed the property, and then obviously then the buyer makes an inquiry to the real estate agent, and the real estate agent sets up the appointment with the owner to go and see that. Okay, well, Spain's different. So if I list the property, I basically can share that property with all the agents in the coast if they have a buyer. It's a multi-listing system. So what I think is very good about this is it's very good for the consumer. I.e., we have a client, the client doesn't want to buy in Benalmádena, he wants to buy in La Cala. How do I get properties in La Cala? I just go to the system, and I look at the system, and I can send them the properties there. And then when the client goes there and he likes the property, we sell it, there's no problem. He can have access to that. So I think it's a very robust, especially when somebody's coming over here, for 3 or 4 days. It's a very good way for them to get to see what's available in the market with a reputable agent who will make all the appointments to make sure, and it saves time for them.
Fantastic. So, frequently asked question number 9. How important is communication during the sale? And people often ask us this, actually. One of the sellers that we're working with right now for a townhouse in this area actually asked us that when we completed the listing agreement with them. How often can I expect to hear from you? How often are you going to communicate with me? What type of updates can I expect to get from you? And it's a very relevant question.
Yeah, so if you're living outside of Spain and you're listing your property, and then you're here for a little while, we do all the listing arrangements, you give me the keys, etc. You're going back to your home country and you're wondering what's happening, because it's a massive decision. We could have it for years and personal issues and everything else. So it's so important when we list the property that we set up a WhatsApp group.
Or agree a method of communication in terms of how...
I think WhatsApp is very good because you're in it, I'm in it, and if I'm busy, you can give them the feedback. We have a viewing feedback, then I can do the feedback on the viewing. And then when I'm actually in the property, I'm like, where's the keys or the things? So it's a very active, we just got an offer on that townhouse actually. So we got sent the offer, they were there, and then the wife's in the so it's not as if he can go and say, I'll speak to my wife. She's there, we're there. And
back to the question though, how important is communication in the process? It's very important.
Massively.
Because your point is if somebody's not here and they get on that plane, they wonder what's going to happen next. Well, what you can expect is that we will set up some sort of forum to communicate with you, whether that's WhatsApp or some forum that you're comfortable with, and you will at minimum get a weekly update in terms of what's going on. But if momentum's building with your property and we need to communicate with you more frequently, it will be done more frequently. But at minimum, it's a weekly status update. And if we feel that we need to review things and reevaluate, then we'll call for a physical meeting, which is probably done through Google Meet or Zoom, where we can actually have a face-to-face discussion over camera, because we may have some things that we might need to clarify or clear up. But communication is king when it comes to selling the property.
Absolutely.
For sure. Okay, and our final question in this segment is question number 10, frequently asked question number 10. What's the secret to a successful sale, Warner?
As I said, partnership. We've all got to be on the same page, from the agency to the seller to the lawyers. We have to have all the documents ready so that when we have a buyer, there's no time lapse. Because what time lapse is it helps them think.
Yeah.
And it gives, you're thinking, it's negative thoughts. So it's so important that we have all the paperwork there. When we have the buyer, we move quickly, we get the deposit, and we pass it on to the lawyer.
So preparation, having a partnership, but I think what is underneath all of this for me is finding an agent who cares as much as you do. Because if you find the right agent that cares as much as you do, all of the preparation, all of the communication will be handled in an excellent and efficient way. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and it really brings confidence to the seller that they've sold with the right agent.
It's daunting selling your property, particularly if it's your first time selling in Spain and you're not living in the country. So, we get that, and it's important that we acknowledge that in our communication with our clients. We had a really good review recently from Afar that really highlights this, and it says, it's quite daunting selling a property abroad, but Warner was amazing. He is so knowledgeable about the market and keeps you up to date with everything. I think that really, again, just cements what we're saying here. Find an agent that cares as much as you do. Well, I've loved these 10 FAQs because they really go into detail about what goes into a sale and how much we care about every transaction. I think with you and me, you are in a safe pair of hands here. We will take care of you.
We will, from start to finish, we'll give you a big cuddle.
It's all about trust. So if you'd like to learn more about what we do, head over to our website, www.wlcostaproperties.net. You'll learn all about our selling process there. You can even download our free seller's guide, which will be delivered straight to your inbox. And if you've liked this video, please remember to subscribe. Thank you for stopping by.
And subscribe.